Welcome to the Indian Sun. I'm Indira Lystrom. My guest today is someone who juggles two unique careers. She's a skiing expert and snowboard instructor, and a musician specializing in music of the baroque period. She's as passionate about the snow sports industry and Australia's delicate alpine environment as she is about music. Meet Natasha Taneja, who occupies this niche where she's exceptionally well known to the people who know her. She also speaks English, Italian, Swedish, and some Farsi. That makes her one of my coolest guests today. Welcome to our show, Natasha.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start with your career in snowboarding. How did you get into it?
I started snowboarding at about 12 years old. I started with school and tried out for the school team and started competing at about 13. And it just fell into place from there. I've been snowboarding about 20 years, skiing about 10.
Mm-hmm. And you're a dual qualified instructor, but what do you prefer to teach, snowboard or skiing?
Oh, people ask me this all the time, but I think the answer is that I just like variety. I don't like to be doing the same thing 24/7.
Mm-hmm. And what has snowboarding taught you?
What has snowboarding taught me? Oh, my God. I think a lot of sports teach the same thing as music. So I guess persistence, practice, perseverance, all those sorts of skills and things that really intertwine with music and sport.
I'm going to come to the music part later, but I'll just complete with this question on the sports part.
Yeah, sure.
And what is your advice to someone who hasn't tried snowboarding?
Take a lesson, give it a go. Make sure you wear waterproof pants because your butt will be soaked to the bone. Prepare to fall over, but have a lot of fun.
And is it a busy time now at Mountbula?
Yeah, it's the first week of the school holidays, so it's absolutely crazy. Unfortunately, around this time of year, the past few seasons, because of global warming, we've had a lot of issues with snowfall, natural snowfall. So at the moment, we have one run open at Mountbula, that's Burke Street. So it's just creating a lot of issues with business and crowds and overcrowding and all sorts of things like that.
And now with the new COVID rules, I'm told that people have to get some sort of a permission to come there. Is that true?
Well, last week we had to get a negative COVID test result to come up. And I was feeling a bit disappointed about that because I thought, I'm going to have to get one every week. But that rule is now abolished. So it's now just recommended that you have a COVID test, but it's not, you don't have to do it.
And also to go back to a bit about how you started this sport is very interesting. I think I read somewhere that you said you went skiing with your mom and you just got hooked onto it at a very young age. Is that true?
I didn't go skiing with my mum. I begged my mum to take me on the school camp. My mum skied a little bit when she was younger, but I wouldn't call it a hobby or anything. So I started out with the school camp and it just went from there.
And you've been enjoying it ever since?
Yes.
Now, okay, let's come to the music side of your story, which is so interesting. You've completed your Bachelor of Honours in Music from the University of Melbourne, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And then you play a lot of instruments like flute and violin, etc. And you teach baroque music. Yeah.
Yes.
So what drew you to this genre of music? And can you also, tell us a bit more about baroque music?
Baroque music is a style of Western music from around Central Europe that was composed from about 1600 to 1750. So it's related to the Baroque period in architecture and art. And it's categorized by, I guess, Baroque music is really extra. Like they put embellishments everywhere. It's just really, really, really over the top, really emotional. It's music that I grew up listening to since I was in the womb. My mum listens to a lot of music. My mum loves Baroque music. So it's just natural, really.
And so where do you teach now?
I teach from my home studio. I also teach at Vermont Primary School during school hours.
Okay. And you enjoyed that?
Yes.
So
it's great.
So during the snow season, you are in Mountbula, and then during the rest of the year, you are teaching music. Is that how you juggle your two careers?
No, I'm a little bit more insane than that. I'm about half a week on, half a week off.
Yeah.
So I'm part-time at Mountbula even in winter because I've got to keep my business going here. So I'm in Melbourne from about Monday to Thursday, and then weekends I'm at Bulla. So just driving back and forth every week.
Oh, that's a lot of driving.
It's a lot of driving. It's about 500 k's a week.
And how many students do you have how many students do you teach from home?
Well, I used to have about 40, and then COVID happened and it went down to about 26. So, COVID was a real bugger, and I think a lot of people can relate to that when I say, my business suffered, but it is what it is.
Do you think that, because people did a lot of online and Zoom classes, do you think in music that is not very effective?
I think there are some things that can suffer with music tuition online, like posture and watching the way that they stand, because, there's only so much that you can do. And especially with kids, you say one thing and then it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. So in terms of posture, it was difficult, but I think children these days are so used to technology and they're so proficient in technology at such a young age that it's really not an issue. They can do so much with it and they cope so well with it. It's probably the parents that have more of an issue with it.
Mm-hmm. And in Baroque music, who are your favorite musicians? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Bach is number one.
Yeah.
J.S. Bach.
Yeah.
I love French Baroque music. I love Otterter. He's probably one of my favorites. He composed a lot for the flute. He was a flautist. I love Quantz, or I love Bieber, not Justin Bieber, H.A.F. Bieber, violinist. Those are probably the top four.
And there are, interestingly, today's the generation now, they listen to music which are more techno and all that. So do you feel that there is a change and people are listening to this kind of what you call classical music?
No, absolutely not. This is not a change at all. I think my taste in music is really, really diverse.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I play Baroque music and I like to listen to Baroque music doesn't mean that I don't enjoy modern music. I like a lot of electronic music as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you have one, I don't think you can't have the other.
Yeah.
But in terms of young people listening to classical music, it's going downhill and downhill with every generation. I mean, if you look at a lot of the orchestras that are trying to make a go of it at the moment, they're putting specials for people not just under 30, but people under 40. They get heavily reduced tickets because they're just trying to encourage younger people to get into it a little bit more.
Why do you think that's happening?
Why do I think they're less inclined to see classical music?
Yeah.
I guess as the generations age, it's not as common for parents to listen to that kind of music while their children are growing up. So that probably plays a part. But I think it's a cultural thing too. I mean, my heritage is European, so that's what my family listened to. That's what my ancestors listened to. So I don't really know. I mean, it's probably a bit different for me compared to someone with an Anglo background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then your dad is Indian too, so you don't like any of the Indian classical music? We have such great instrumentalists.
Yeah, you do. My dad is not particularly musical. He doesn't know a lot about music, so I'm a little bit uneducated on that side of things.
And you juggle these two careers so well, and it's so unique. And have you had mentors in life and career?
I have. One of my biggest inspirations was my teacher at uni, Greg Dickmans. Mm-hmm. So he's probably the biggest inspiration to me that I know in terms of my musical career. My flute teacher as a child, Natalie Rishiniti, I had her for about 10 years, probably over 10 years, and I'm continually in contact with her. Mm-hmm. She's been amazing. In terms of snow sports, I've had coaching by some pretty amazing skiers. So Natalie Seagull is probably one of them. And Zoe Jabur, she coaches and she's a judge on the Olympic mogul team. So it's pretty amazing to have contact with her as well.
Are they all based in Australia?
Yeah, during our season, yes, but during the summer, no. Usually Canada or Europe.
Hmm. And you've had this really, I'm told by your dad, you've had this really interesting experiences. And you've been to Iran and you learned Persian there. Is that true?
Yes, I did. I was there over about 2 winter seasons in 2013, 2014. And I was studying Persian, and I got to ski and snowboard on my days off, which was like living the high life, really.
Mm. And I believe they have one of the best ice rinks over there, or skiing areas.
Define best.
I mean, Iran, apparently, like, not many people know about it, but it's like really good.
Yeah, I mean, the snow quality is amazing. I guess with anything weather related, it depends on the season. So, you know, mountains are so delicate, but the snow quality is incredible. The powder is some of the best that I've ridden in the world. And because it is, I mean, a lot of people don't know that Iran has even cold weather, to be honest. So a lot of foreigners don't go there. But in terms of infrastructure, it's definitely not what I've seen in the developed world.
Mm. Yeah. Does learning languages come easy with you? I mean, you know 4 languages.
I know one properly, and that's English. No, I think it does. I mean, I guess it intertwines with music. It's all oral, so.
Yeah. So you speak fluent Italian as well?
No, my Italian's makeshift. Can we use that word? It's makeshift Italian. And my mum comes from a region in the far north, so they have a dialect as well. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult for me to understand which one is which.
And have you learned a bit of Hindi as well?
A little bit, but not really that much. I used to be able to read and write a bit more, but now it's really downhill.
Now I'm going to come to one of the last few questions about your heritage, which is really, really interesting. You have an Italian mother, an Indian father, and it's an amalgamation of the best of cultures. How is it growing up in such a multicultural household?
Oh, hard, really hard. And I don't think I would call it the best of cultures, because I
really?
don't. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what parents tell their children.
Answer.
About it. You get the best, but you absolutely get the worst as well. And to be honest, growing up in Australia in the 90s, growing up in a white country in the 90s, nobody wants to be ethnic. Nobody wants to be Indian. It's really tough getting through that, and it's really tough dealing with that as an adult. So I can't give you this answer with rose-tinted glasses, because it's just impossible.
Would you say that you faced incidents of racism?
Yeah, I did. I suffered racism from a young age. I suffered from, I guess, just a lot of internalized, what should I say, just internalized issues, I guess, about it. Yeah. And
do you think in those days, the support system was not there a lot, because now people are talking about it and these things are taken very seriously? And of course, we have the woke culture. So, people are a lot aware, right? Things have changed, isn't it?
Right.
Can you say that?
Yeah, that's definitely right. I mean, there was no support system. It didn't exist. And there was really no talk about racism or anything like that when I was younger. I think now it's a little bit different. There are probably more people growing up with parents from 2 or more cultures. So it's a little bit more normalized. And I think a lot of people are a bit more aware of what it's like to have those continuous clashes. Yeah.
That's interesting, because I would never think that, I mean, we've had a lot of stories come in, but, and then we think that in Australia is so multicultural, but I guess 10, 20 years things were, a lot more different.
Yeah, things were really, really different.
Yeah. And, I'm sure a lot of people would like, to have a dual career like yours. What would your advice be to, people who want to, juggle 2 careers successfully?
It's possible. My advice is, I think the first time you try it, you kind of treat it as a learning curve, and you get to know what your boundaries are and when too much is too much, because it's so easy to burn out and it's so easy to just pile way too much on your plate. But I think once you get that first year out of the way, then you tend to learn what you can do with it and how much you should be doing with it. And then you can learn from that, put your own hours in.
And also in terms of the financial aspect, are you happy with what you make and stuff?
No one goes into the snow industry for money, but I mean, I think it's one of those things where you get a lot of benefits out of it that aren't necessarily financial.
I know there's a lot of, and there's a passion and there's a satisfaction and all that, isn't it? Like any other creative stuff, isn't it?
That's right. You get the passion, you get the satisfaction, you get a season pass so you can ski in your time off, which is really good. Yeah. It's just nice to be there.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think your life is so interesting. You're doing the things that you want. And I think Australia is such a great country. At least it gives you that scope to do things that you have to do, isn't it? I mean, I would imagine a young girl in India like yourself would be pressurized to study medicine or any other thing and then get married. And you don't have all those pressures over here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it would have been different in any other country. I was very fortunate. I was born in Queensland, but my parents moved me down to Victoria. So I think living in this state has absolutely made a huge impact in my life. But in terms of pressures to study medicine or engineering or something, my parents are not traditional. They didn't follow traditional career paths. So I think it would be hypocritical of them to say things about me. Yeah.
Lovely chatting with Natasha. Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you. It was great.